The Dallas Cowboys are standing at a crossroads that could reshape their quarterback room before a single pick is made at the 2026 NFL Draft. And if you think the only trades being discussed involve moving up or down the board, you're missing one of the most intriguing storylines building quietly beneath the surface. If you want every major Cowboys update before anyone else, hit that subscribe button right now and join the Cowboys Reality Check family, because we're just getting started. Welcome in, everybody. I hope wherever you are in this world, today is treating you right. On Cowboys Reality Check, we do not just follow the headlines. We dig beneath them. And right now, over the past 24 to 36 hours, the conversation surrounding this organization has been almost entirely dominated by draft day trade maneuvering. Should Dallas trade up to grab Shedeur Sanders? Should they trade back and accumulate more capital? Should they jump ahead of the New York Giants? Those are all legitimate debates, and we have covered them thoroughly. But there is another dimension to this story that has not received the attention it deserves, and it is the possibility of a player, not just a pick, being moved during draft weekend. That player is Dallas Cowboys quarterback Joe Milton III, and the case for trading him is more compelling than most fans are willing to admit. This conversation was ignited by a piece from USA Today in which analyst Jack McKessie identified one player from each of the 32 NFL franchises who could realistically be dealt during the draft. For the Dallas Cowboys, that player was Joe Milton III, the big-armed, cannon-legged signal caller whom McKessie described in plain terms, noting that while Milton possesses elite arm talent, he has struggled to develop the complementary skills required to function as an NFL starter or even a reliable high-end backup. McKessie went further, pointing out that Dallas has already added veteran quarterback Sam Howell to compete for the backup role behind Dak Prescott, and suggested the Cowboys could benefit from converting Milton's trade value into defensive draft capital rather than potentially releasing him after training camp with nothing to show for it. That is a sobering but honest assessment, and it opens up a genuinely fascinating set of organizational questions for a Cowboys team that is no stranger to this kind of move. Let us go back and trace the pattern here, because history matters when evaluating what Jerry Jones might do next. In 2023, Dallas acquired Trey Lance from San Francisco for a fourth-round pick, looking to develop a talented but raw quarterback behind Prescott. Then in 2025, Jones made the same kind of speculative bet again. The Cowboys sent a 2025 fifth-round pick to New England and received Joe Milton III along with a 2025 seventh-round pick in return. A net trade that essentially cost them a fifth-round selection in exchange for a young quarterback who had only a single NFL start on his resume. Several teams had expressed interest in Milton at the time, a 2024 sixth-round pick who had impressed many around the league after throwing for 241 yards on 22 of 29 passing attempts and scoring 2 touchdowns in that first career start. A 23-16 victory over the Buffalo Bills in Week 18 of the 2024 season. The Cowboys moved faster than anyone else, and the logic was sound. They needed a young developmental arm. They got one at a low price, and the ceiling on Milton is genuinely exciting. Now, less than 2 years later, the question being raised is whether Dallas should flip the script entirely and become the team selling the young quarterback rather than buying one. To understand why this conversation is happening, you have to look at where the Cowboys quarterback room stands right now. Dallas sent a clear message about the backup competition when they signed Sam Howell to a one-year deal this offseason, putting him in an expected battle with Joe Milton III for the QB2 role behind Dak Prescott. Howell is a known quantity, a quarterback who has started NFL games, shown flashes of real competence, and whose skill set draws more favorable comparisons to Prescott's style of play than Milton's does. He is a pocket passer, a processor, a rhythm-based operator. Milton, by contrast, is an athlete first, a guy whose defining trait is still that bazooka arm paired with an ability to extend plays with his legs that frankly borders on freakish for someone who is not even primarily recruited as a quarterback coming out of high school. The problem is that arm and those legs have not yet translated into consistent, reliable quarterback play at the NFL level. Milton appeared in 4 games in 2025, totaling 183 passing yards on 15 completions with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. That line alone tells most of the story. Over the course of an entire NFL season, with every opportunity to develop and show growth, Milton's production was minimal. His completion numbers were not disastrous. He posted a 62.5% completion rate across those appearances, but the turnover issues and the general inability to consistently process and deliver the football on time remain persistent concerns. The tools are real. The refinement is not there yet. And now the Cowboys are staring down a roster construction puzzle that does not have a clean answer. Here is the dilemma in its simplest form. If Sam Howell wins the backup job, and there's a reasonable chance he does, given the trajectory of both players, where does Joe Milton go? The honest answer is that keeping 3 quarterbacks on a 53-man roster is a significant luxury for a team that needs every single roster spot it can find to build a defense capable of competing in January. The Cowboys have serious needs along the defensive line, at linebacker, and in the secondary. Burning a roster spot on a third quarterback who is unlikely to see the field unless both Prescott and the backup go down in the same season is a hard sell when that spot could house a developmental edge rusher or a versatile defensive back. The alternative is placing Milton on the practice squad, which carries its own enormous risk. A player with his physical profile would almost certainly be claimed off waivers by another team within 48 hours. Dallas would walk away with nothing. That is the core of the argument for trading him now. While his value is still intact, and while the NFL draft creates a natural marketplace for exactly this kind of transaction. McKessie's point about converting Milton into defensive draft capital is not just filler analysis. It reflects a real organizational calculus. A 6th-round pick may not sound glamorous, but in a draft where the Cowboys are already working to maximize every available selection, adding another late-round asset to go after a pass rusher or a cornerback with upside is not nothing. It is a practical, forward-thinking move that acknowledges both what Milton is today and what the Cowboys actually need to win. Now, the natural question is who would want him, and the answer is a surprisingly robust list. If Dallas entertains trade talks for Milton, the Green Bay Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers, Los Angeles Rams, and New York Jets could all be among the interested teams. Green Bay, Los Angeles, and New York already have solidified starters, but could use more depth in their quarterback rooms, and Milton could step in and earn a backup role with any of those 3 franchises. Each of those teams has a different motivation, but the common thread is that Milton's physical upside makes him the kind of quarterback worth taking a low-cost flyer on. You're not paying much to acquire him, you are not committing to starting him, and if the development clicks, you potentially have one of the more exciting young arms in the league operating within your offensive system. Of the 4 teams on that list, the Green Bay Packers stand out as the most intriguing potential trade partner, and the reasoning is not hard to follow. The Packers have a demonstrated track record of developing raw, athletically gifted quarterbacks into functional NFL contributors under their system and coaching infrastructure. The blueprint for what Green Bay could do with Joe Milton already exists in recent history, because it played out almost exactly with Malik Willis over the past 2 seasons. Willis was a player who arrived in Green Bay after struggling to establish himself in Tennessee, a player many had written off as too raw and too inconsistent to ever find his footing at the NFL level. The Packers gave him structure, patience, and a system that highlighted his athleticism while coaching up his processing skills. The result was remarkable. Willis's development under the Green Bay coaching staff was transformative enough that the Miami Dolphins made him their unambiguous franchise quarterback this offseason, signing him to a 3-year, $67.5 million contract that included a $22.5 million signing bonus with significant guarantees extending into 2027. That is not a coincidence. That is a system and a culture producing results. And the reporting connecting Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay organization as a natural fit for Milton specifically points to that Willis precedent as the reason why. The arc is strikingly similar. A physically gifted, arm talent-first quarterback who has yet to fully harness his gifts as a traditional pocket passer, entering a stable organizational environment with a proven offensive infrastructure and patient developmental coaching. If the Cowboys moved Milton to Green Bay for draft capital, they would not be abandoning him. They would potentially be sending him exactly where his career needs to go. The new Miami front office, led by general manager John Eric Sullivan and head coach Jeff Hafley, had the most intimate knowledge of Willis's development, having spent the past 2 seasons alongside him in Green Bay before taking over in South Florida. That personal familiarity was ultimately what drove Miami to make a massive financial commitment to a player most teams had undervalued. The lesson here is clear. The right developmental environment can transform a player's entire career trajectory. And for a player like Joe Milton, landing in Green Bay over the next 2 seasons could be the difference between a journeyman backup and a genuine NFL starter somewhere down the road. There is also a Pittsburgh angle worth examining, even if it is less clean than the Green Bay fit. The Steelers do not know who their starting quarterback will be in 2026, and while Milton is not ready to fill that role, Pittsburgh could take a calculated flyer on the former 6th-round pick and see what new head coach Mike McCarthy can bring out of his raw talent. McCarthy, of course, has an extensive history with quarterback development dating back to his time in Green Bay and then in Dallas. He is not a stranger to working with young quarterbacks who need structure and patience. The Steelers' situation is volatile enough that even a developmental swing makes organizational sense. And Milton's dual-threat ability would give McCarthy something genuinely new to work with in designing an offense around. The Jets and the Rams round out the list as teams looking to add depth behind established starters. And in both cases, the appeal is obvious. You are not asking Milton to win games for you immediately. You're giving him a landing spot where he can develop, absorb an NFL playbook, and wait for his opportunity. That kind of situation may actually be ideal for a player whose limitations right now are more about football IQ and processing than they are about physical tools. So where does all of this leave the Dallas Cowboys as they approach draft weekend? It leaves them with a genuinely interesting decision that goes beyond the standard pick-swapping conversation. Trading Joe Milton is not an admission of failure. It is not throwing in the towel on a player they believed in. It is a pragmatic, analytically sound roster move that acknowledges the organizational realities of 2026, that this Cowboys team needs defensive help more urgently than it needs a third quarterback, that Milton's value on the open market is real and tangible right now, and that allowing him to walk away for nothing after training camp would represent a genuine missed opportunity. The Cowboys pounced on the opportunity to acquire Milton a year ago, sending a 2025 5th-round pick to New England in a trade that also returned a 7th-round pick. They saw value where others hesitated. Now the question is whether they can recognize another form of value, the value of converting an asset before it depreciates on the depth chart. Dallas has done this twice on the buying side, landing Trey Lance, and then Joe Milton through trades that brought in young quarterback talent at below-market prices. There's a certain poetic logic to the idea that they might now do the inverse, become the sellers, flip the young arm for draft picks, and use those assets to address the defensive gaps that still stand between this roster and a legitimate Super Bowl contender. The Cowboys hold 2 first-round picks in this draft at selections 12 and 20. They have the ammunition to be aggressive. They have shown a willingness to be creative in how they build this roster. And if Sam Howell is genuinely the preferred option at the backup quarterback position right now, then holding on to Joe Milton for the sake of depth, only to potentially lose him on waivers anyway, is the worst possible outcome. Trading him is the bold move. Trading him is the smart move. And frankly, for a player of his profile and a team with his destination options, it may also be the move that serves everyone's best interests. Drop a Y in the comments section below if you believe Dallas will move a player, not just a pick, during the 2026 NFL Draft. Drop it in if you think the Cowboys keep the roster intact and only deal draft assets. And while you're down there, tell us which of those 4 potential trade partners, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, or the New York Jets, you think makes the most sense for Joe Milton. That conversation is going to be lively, and every angle is welcome. The 2026 NFL Draft is almost here. The Cowboys are going to be active. The quarterback room decisions are going to carry enormous weight going forward. And here on Cowboys Reality Check, we will have every development covered for you in real time. We appreciate every single one of you who watches, comments, and subscribes. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. We will see you next time.